Hello and welcome again to another episode of Career Magic with Nitin Kulkarni, and this is a continuation of our series on starting your career. So people who are finishing their education or have finished their education and are getting into a professional role with an organization, are preparing to do that, this is really for them. There might be some pointers here for people who are already in the workforce as well, but primarily I'm doing this series for new employees. Okay. So far in this series I have covered getting into the mindset of getting hired, and secondly I have covered how to put together a killer resume. Very simple inputs but very powerful inputs that I wish I knew when I was your age and getting into the workforce. I didn't know this stuff then and I could have done a lot better. But anyway, this is based on my experience, my thoughts on what works best. Okay, so this particular video I'm going to talk about now. You have been shortlisted for an interview. Okay, now it's time to prepare for the interview, and from this point onwards the next few videos are going to be about getting ready for the interview and sitting for the interview and how to do a good job in it and put your best foot forward, etc. But today is the pre-interview preparation piece that I will talk about, one aspect of it. But before I get into it, I just want to remind you of the 4 things that recruiters look for, that organizations look for from someone with your profile. Because you're not going in with a lot of experience of doing the kinds of things that are required in the workplace. You're going in with a certain amount of knowledge of your subject, and which only a part of it can be applied. But what they are looking for mostly is some behavioral and mindset attitudes, and they are looking for evidence of those from your past life, particularly the most recent life. They don't just believe what you say. Recruiters, by the way, are very, very smart. They know how to, so you may tell them that one of your biggest strengths is analytical skills. They know how to then find data, find instances, find examples from your own life where you can actually demonstrate it. And if you are really unable to demonstrate it convincingly, you do not come across as an honest person. So let me talk about the 4 things, and then I'm going to talk about how to prepare, how to learn more about the company and be prepared for the interview. So the first thing that they look for is clarity and focus. Clarity and focus is really about knowing what you want and then putting your mind and energies and spending time doing it. Okay, clarity and focus, because this is very important once you get into the job. Why do they look for these things? Because skills can be taught, knowledge can be learned, but these sorts of things are very often a part of you, and if you have these things, you can then become a very valuable employee right off the bat by learning the skills, by learning some of the things that you need when you get into the job. When I got into my first job, my technical skills, the skills that I had learned as a mechanical engineer in IIT Delhi, were useful only up to a point. What was more useful were these things I realized very quickly once I got into my first job, which was Maruti Suzuki. So clarity and focus, knowing what you want, figuring it out, and then really putting your energy, effort, time into going after it. This is a very important attribute that recruiters want to see, and it's a very good idea to sort of engineer the interview and engineer your answers in order to demonstrate this. The second thing they look for is action orientation. Not only should you have clarity and focus, but you should demonstrate that once you have that, you get up and do something about it. You're not just sitting around thinking about it and just getting paralyzed with analysis. You actually get up, you have a bias for action, you get up and do stuff. It's number 2. Number 3, the ability to learn quickly. Because this is a fast changing world, organizations, businesses have to adapt very quickly, and the employees over there are their biggest asset, who must learn new things quickly, adapt, and still be able to reproduce results, business outcomes for the organization. And finally, they're looking for honesty. Honesty means you're honest about your weaknesses, you're honest about what you don't know, you're honest about what your strengths are, and you're honest about any mistakes you make. So honesty, and this is one thing that recruiters can really smell very, very quickly. They can figure this out if you are, over embellishing things, or you really have what you are saying. Okay, so recruiters are typically looking for these things, and what they will do is that in order to understand these things, they will get into the details of what you have done recently. So they'll ask you fairly open questions. Tell me about yourself, and I'll come to questions in my next video. I'm going to talk about a few standard questions that many recruiters tend to ask, open questions, and how to think about those, how to prepare for them, and bring out these 4 qualities while you answer them. But that's what the recruiters will look for, particularly for people who are new to the workforce. They'll ask you questions about your project, they'll ask you questions about some things you have done, about your favorite subject, and get into the details of why it is so, and what you learned, what are the 3 main things, and I'll get into some of those details. But the recruiter essentially is trying to firm up an opinion about you on how you would turn out when you get into the workforce. Okay, so this is item number 1. Remember this. The second thing that you need to do before you get into the interview, now as I said, you have been called for an interview by a company. Now it's very, very important to do some research into the company before you get into the interview. Don't just show up for the interview with a foggy idea about what the company does. Even if it is a well-known company, it's a great idea to spend some quality time researching the company. Now, what are some resources you can use? Obviously, the company website is a very, very rich source of information. Go through the website in detail. Look at what services they are offering. For example, if you are applying to an IT company, say Infosys, go to their website. They have very comprehensive websites. Look at who their senior management is and what their background is. Look at what services they offer. So they always offer services in various categories. They may have a product offering. They may offer services in the area of artificial intelligence and machine learning. They may offer services in the area of application maintenance and so on. They may even offer some consulting services. So learn a little bit about, you will not know in depth about it, but if you have an idea about these, you may actually, some of those might look interesting to you, and they will form some very interesting questions you can ask in the interview to demonstrate that you really understand the company, you are serious about it. So look at their website and look at the various things, senior management, as I said, the products and services they offer, what clients they work for, how they are organized. In fact, with public companies, you may, their revenue, etc., is public information. Know how much revenue they make and what is their profit, etc. It's a good idea to have these, write these things down, so that before going for the interview, you can just look quickly at your notes and refresh your memory about the company's details. So that is one thing. The second thing that you must do is look at news about this company. Look at, just search for news. So again, taking that same example forward, let's say Infosys, or you're applying to TCS, or you're applying to Maruti Suzuki, or any multinational organization, just Google it and look for news. Look at some news items that have come out about the company. Sometimes these news items are not very nice. They may have been a little bit of a negative publicity about the company. There may have been some positive publicity and the outlook about the company. Read those up. Understand what people are talking about that company. Again, that can provide you with some good raw material to ask quality questions about the company, that where you demonstrate your desire to learn about the company. So news and events. So the company websites also have news and events section, but sometimes they are not updated frequently. So a good idea is to look at these, Google it and look at what. So if it's even if it is a small startup that you are applying to, find out a little more about the founders, about the from their website, their background. So for example, if the founders come from the financial services industry or the engineering industry, understand where they come from, because now you are a little more intelligent about the company. The news will tell you about perhaps the outlook, the challenges and events, significant events that have taken place around the company. Do this. And again, as I said, make notes. You can look at these notes before you go to the interview. You may do this process over a period of a few days. So that's the second source of information. Website, second source of information is news and events from Google. Another very rich source of information is talking to people who either are working in that company or have worked in that company in the past. Talk to them and ask general questions. How would a fresh graduate operate over there? What are some exciting things? What are things that we should be mindful of? What are things that are important to the company? What do they look for, etc.? Gather all this information and form an impression about the company, form an impression about what they are looking for, and form an impression therefore about how you are a good candidate for that company based on where they are going, what are their challenges, what are their opportunities, and what they are looking for. If you do all of this, these notes will then provide you with a lot of rich information. Remember, if even a small thing, like if I meet a person after a long time and I haven't met them many times and I remember their name, they love it. They always tell me that, hey, wow, Nitin, you remember my name, that's great. And they feel great about themselves. Why? Because you have given them the respect about learning something about them and remembering it and saying it. It's the same thing with companies. When you show up for an interview, you for example, when you're answering a question, you can actually seed a little bit of this information. You don't have to show off, but if they're asking you about some aspect of your project, you can say that this is what I did, and I noticed on their website that you are providing these services, and I was very curious about whether what I did would be very handy if I were to work in that area, because you're providing this particular service to these sorts of clients, and I was very, very excited to see that, something like that. So they know that you have researched them. They feel good about the fact that you are serious. You're not just applying there because one of your friends is applying, or because you have heard that the pay package is good. They want you to come in because one of the questions companies tend to ask in their interviews is, why do you want to work for us? What is it about us that excites you? And that answer can be that question can be answered very well if you have done your research and thought it through. So do these things even before you go for the interview. There are a few other things that you need to do before you. So this is very specific to the interview that you are going for. In the next video, I'm going to talk about some general preparation that you need to do, which is going to come in handy in any interview. Some standard questions that are asked, and how you can answer those questions by framing them in terms that are attractive to recruiters. I will see you in the next video. Hope you are enjoying these videos and they are giving you some insights to take away and be better prepared to start your career.